Clerk.
Private members' business. Next order of the day, motion on defence houses at Eaton, Northern Territory.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. I call the member for Solomon.
Hello. Thank you. Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise to talk to my private member's motion. The purpose of this motion is threefold. Firstly, to note that Darwin, and indeed the Northern Territory, is currently experiencing the worst housing crisis since Cyclone Tracy, and that the Minister for Defence, Science and Personnel, the member for Lingiari, supports the plans to demolish or remove 396 houses at Eaton, or as the locals know it, the RAAF Base Housing. Secondly, to note the significant adverse impact the demolition or removal of these houses will have on the local community, the local school and indeed the local businesses. And thirdly, call on the Gillard Labor government to take action by firstly excising the Darwin suburb of Eaton from RAAF Base Darwin, secondly to hand over the 396 houses currently managed by the Department of Defence in the Darwin suburb of Eaton to Defence Housing Australia, and to thirdly direct DHA as a matter of priority to develop and implement a business plan that would determine the percentage of the 396 houses in Eaton that could be made available for lease or on sale to the local community in order to help address the critical housing shortage. It is well over 12 months since I first publicly raised this issue in an attempt to stop the lunacy of this Labor government demolishing 396 perfectly good houses at the RAAF Base Darwin. I promised Territorians that if I was elected, I would continue to fight to make these houses available to Territorians. True to my word, I raised this issue the very first day I came to this place, and I raised it at every opportunity I can in this place. Territorians cannot understand why this Labor government insists on having these houses sitting there vacant, especially when we have people sleeping in their cars or on the streets because of the housing crisis. Now, everyone knows that in the Territory, it is one of the most expensive places to live in Australia. Territorians tell me every day that they feel like this government has comprehensively failed to address the cost of living pressures on Australians and in particular Territorians. Now, I've asked Minister Snowden, a fellow Territorian, a number of times on behalf of the people of Solomon to make these 396 houses available for Territorians. I have pleaded with him not to leave them vacant, because we all know that houses that are vacant deteriorate, and that's exactly what's happening right now. These houses are slowly rotting away. It is a complete waste of taxpayer-funded resources, and no one likes to see waste, especially such a blatant example of waste. Territorians are outraged. They see with the eye of common sense, but fail to understand why this issue remains unresolved and why these houses continue to sit vacant. As I've been talking to some of my colleagues in this place, they also can't understand why these houses are sitting there vacant, and so they've indicated that they will support my motion. During the 2010 election campaign, Territorians were told by this Labor government that the houses were to be demolished or removed because the Joint Strike Fighters were being based at RAAF Winnelly, and that the noise from these planes will have an adverse effect on the RAAF houses. The noise was supposedly wouldn't impact the industrial area or the private houses right next door. Well, how does that work? Well, embarrassingly for this government, the Department of Defence came out and corrected the record. The JSFs were not going to be housed at RAAF Winnelly at all, which meant that the noise from the planes was irrelevant. Defence further corrected the record by stating that the 396 houses do not meet the new Defence housing standards, and that this is one of the factors for the houses being recommended for removal or demolition. This is what Territorians are so upset about. These perfectly good houses may not meet the upgraded Defence housing standards, which have to be implemented by 2016. That's 5 years away. Although these houses do not meet Defence housing standards, many Territorians would love the opportunity to live in one of these houses or to even buy one of these houses. They don't want them sitting there vacant. It is important to use these houses, and that's what I've said from day one. Let's use these houses. By this government keeping these houses vacant, they continue to send a message to Territorians that this government stands for waste and mismanagement. One of the excuses I was given was that Defence personnel don't want to live in southern-style houses. They want to live in southern-style houses. Well, how practical is that in the tropics? Now, I understand that Defence Housing Australia is now building tropical-style houses. Now, if we give these houses to DHA, they're going to have 396 already tropically designed houses in their stock. So DHA has experienced successfully building communities that integrate both defence and civilian families. Why should Eaton be any different?
Has expired.